Well, hello, and welcome to the Situtory. Happy Friday, if it's Friday with you. If you haven't been here before, my name's Jane and I'm an artist living and working in the middle of Scotland. And every Friday I come here and I just talk about things that have been going on in my week, and I show you around the garden. And and this is the 25th one of these that I have done, which I find quite mind-boggling really. So we also hit 750 subscribers, which again seems mind-boggling to me. So what I thought I would do is that right at the end here I'm going to do a giveaway. I'll decide as I go around the garden what I'm going to give away, and then right at the end come back and you'll see what is up for grabs. So today, actually I'm going to move this rather beautiful fuchsia. People are so snobby about fuchsias, and this is the first time I've grown them for years and years and years, and they're just delightful. Anyway, move the fuchsia. First thing I wanted to talk about was to show you I have actually started a new knitting project, and this kind of falls into the category of things I can knit while listening on a Zoom category, which I think many of us have found is quite a large category. So it's a scarf. Last winter, the thing that I found most useful down in the studio was those kind of scarves that wrap round twice and are twisted on a Mobius loop. So they're not going to fall off, they're nice and light to wear, and they don't get in the way. So this is going to be one of those. You see, I've done a provisional cast on this very, very bright blue cotton, so I can get it out easily. And then the rest of it is just being knitted in stripes. Now the wool, the grey wool is one that I use a lot. I have this big coon. I'm not sure what it is because I bought it when I was 15 and haven't used it. It's very, very fine. It's really soft. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a cashmere or an alpaca mix. Then the dark grey is this, which I have left over from a jumper that I knitted 3 years ago, and it's really nice. It's an alpaca mix and it's just very, very soft. And then the colours are these balls of wool. Now these are from a charity shop. They are alpaca lamb's wool mix, and there were 3 colours. There was the green and the blue, which, you know, are perfectly nice. And then there was a bright, excuse me, white, which wasn't going at all. And it looked like kind of like a 1980s shop uniform somehow. Just the blue and the green and the white. Hi, Budgie. Can you get out of the way? Tail out of the way. You can see the wool. So what I did was I have dyed all of that white wool into a very soft, I was just wanting something that was soft and beigey, not that was going to like be an amazing colour, just something that would go with everything else. So I mortared it with alum, and then I put it into kind of like a tee of new bracken fronds. This is what I got, which is really nice. And you can see how that actually, it does make it look really, really nice. And this is going to be the softest scarf because it's all old alpaca. So it's going to also have cost me very, very little. These were 50p, the 3 balls of wool. I do have more of this. It's just, in dyeing it I had to put it into skeins, and I was quite lazy in how much I wound back up. So that's going to have cost me 50p, and then obviously this was in my stash, and this is in my stash, and I have got 2 small other tiny balls of wool of this, so we will squeak around it. It's 80 stitches on a circular needle that is a 3mm needle, and I'm just going round and round and round, and then making sure not to jog the stripes by slipping one. If you want to know how to do that, Pearl Soho have the best tutorial that I have found on it. Basically you're just slipping a stitch, but anyway they explain it very, very well. So that's my work in progress, and that's what, if you're ever on a Zoom, which I'm not teaching, this is what I am knitting at the moment. Now the second thing that I want to do today is, last week I got a bit of a polite ticking off from a friend who feels that I should not be encouraging people to forage from the wild and dye fabrics or dye wools or print kind of thing. And you know, in many, many ways, I can absolutely see where she's coming from, because there have been so many examples in the past of things suddenly becoming fashionable, and commercial enterprises, quite big commercial enterprises. I'm not talking about, you know, somebody who'd go and dye a few skeins of wool and sell them on Etsy, but big enterprises back in the 19th century basically making plants in Scotland extinct and plants other places extinct. It's one of the reasons that I would never mention dyeing with lichen, is because species of lichen were made extinct by businesses who were in search of nice bright pinks. You know, it is a really, really important point. I did take your point on that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to walk you down to the studio, because I want to show you the studio as well, because we're kind of like doing some rejigs in the hope that I might do some classes here, or maybe one-to-ones here. Anyway, at the moment we're sorting out the loo, which is the first step on that. But as we walk down there, I wanted to show you where I get my materials from, which isn't really strictly foraging, and also to show you why it's really, really important to think about the other creatures that those plants are their home. So I'm going to pick up the camera and come with me. Let's walk through the garden and then down the studio path. So this is the central path through the dye garden, and this is where I grow lots and lots of dye plants, and lots of plants that are not dye plants, obviously. And if we take you through this arch, this is part of the garden that we pretty much leave to itself. And then there's a path that is trimmed. You can see the studio down there. So this is where a lot of the plants that I'm printing with at the moment come from. You can see there's the roseberry willow herb, just such a beautiful plant. And then down here there is some dock and some brambles, which I'm experimenting with this week. But then what I wanted to show you is actually down here. Hogweed. And this is where we have been leaving sort of branches and clippings and things. But look at the nettles. Can you see them? These are the caterpillars of peacock butterflies. The butterfly lays the egg in May. May they hatch and they all get together, all these caterpillars, and they make a nest. They put the leaves together in a little web, and then after about a week, which is where we are now, they eat their way out of that web and they feast on the nettles. And then they'll pupate, and I've never been able to find many of them pupating. And then at some point in July, August, they all turn into butterflies, and we have the skies full of peacock butterflies. So this is why we don't cut the nettles after late April, to leave them for the peacock butterflies. Right, and here we are at the studio. Let me switch the lights on a bit better. And at the moment, as I mentioned, we are trying to work out what it would take to have workshops, maybe, just 1-to-1, 1-to-2 people workshops down here to see whether I could cook. Now, it is in a terrible mess because we are trying to fix the loo here, so everything is out of there. And this is my main creative space. You can see there is the tripod there from where I was filming some stuff yesterday for the studio club. And my iron. This is my dye pots when they're not outside. And right at the end, which is where I'm going to go, I have my new piece of work beginning. So this is what I'm working on at the moment, and it is the first patch of a grandmother's flower garden quilted hanging. It's probably going to go down the back of our spare bedroom bed as a kind of a feature. And what I've done is each of these hexagons is printed with a bit of sweet cicely leaf, and then they're made up into these flowers and surrounded by plain tablecloth. It is an old, let me see, I've got a bit here. Right, so it is an old damask tablecloth that I have cut up, scoured, mordanted, printed, cut into hexagons, and I'm now sewing together. So you can see it's kind of quite a labour intensive work. Sweet Cicely is the one that's completed, and I have moved on to doing rose bay willow herb, and then the next one that I'm going to do is plantain, which I'm very excited about. So that is what's kind of like in my head. If you are a studio clubber and you want to kind of like know the ins and outs and the mordants and that kind of thing, they are in the studio club blog at the moment. All of the details are there, also how I'm doing it. Right, so I'm going to find something to do as a giveaway, and I'll see you back up for a cup of coffee. So I've decided that a really nice thing to do would be to give away a full set of my seasonal weight books. Now these are kind of almost like scrapbooks of here. There are recipes, there are photographs, there are tutorials. They're very, very beautiful, and as you can see, obviously they match my scarf. So I'm going to give away a set of these to somebody who leaves a comment on this post and who is subscribed to my channel. I would love to know just something that you have noticed in the last week that you've particularly loved. It doesn't have to be something from the natural world, though mine often would be, But just let me know what has made you smile in the comments below. And I shall pick a winner in 2 weeks' time. But I shall also see you next Friday. Goodness, 25 of these. It's amazing how it builds up. Have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye.